let's talk about fixing them. Because fixing these little things is not only going to make you a better CrossFitter, a better lifter, a better mover, but it's going to change your quality of life. When you breathe correctly, your endurance goes up. You get fewer headaches because you're not using these muscles so much. When you get core stability, you're stronger, you have better posture. You're not wasting energy on anything from running to sitting, using other muscles more than what was designed to work that way. First, we're going to do a couple mobility exercises because, and people will disagree or there's other schools of thought, I think that it's more important to do mobility work before stability work because you have to be able to move through a full range of motion if you want to get the full benefits of your strength and stability work. So, with our mobility, the big ones here are going to be the thoracic and the lumbar regions, okay? So with the thoracic region, remember we talked about that rounded out posture. This means a couple things for us. This is going to mean that our chest in the front is going to tighten down because these muscles are always shortened. And we need them to open up, and we need the mid-back to be able to extend individually. So the easiest way to open up your chest is to stretch your pec muscles. So we will come over here. You can do this with any corner, doorway, rig. You're going to go about 90 degrees or a little bit above. You're going to step through with your elbow blocked and then rotate away. The bent elbow is key when you're doing pecs. If you have it out like this, this is more biceps. Still feels great, not what we're going for. We want to open our chest from the front and the back. So again, you step through, you rotate away. You can also take a lacrosse ball and just dig in with little circles there, and that's also going to break up some of that scar tissue. And I'm not talking scar tissue like you got cut and your body laid down scar tissue. I'm talking about micro scar tissue from micro trauma, from muscles being overworked. Because your body's short-term solution is going to be to throw down some scar tissue, and since you're not lengthening that muscle very much, that scar tissue just sits and builds up and builds up and builds up until you're stuck like this. We've all seen the guys that bench press entirely too much and they walk around like this. And it literally looks like their pec is trying to tear away from their arm and shoulder. We don't want that. So mobility here is very important. The part for your thoracic spine, you can either use the double lacrosse ball or if you have really tender erector muscles, you can use 2 tennis balls. But the reason you use these instead of a foam roller is, I will demonstrate. I know I'm not a big person, but even a big person, using this is going to feel great on those muscles, but if I'm trying to extend, look at how thick it is. It's covering several vertebral levels, okay? So again, I'm getting extension, but they're moving at 2 or 3 at a time. That's not what we want. We don't want blocky movement. We want each individual segment to move itself. So, thank you, foam roller. The lacrosse ball. You're gonna start in your mid-back, down at that TL junction, okay? You're gonna put it right in the middle of your back, your spine. You're gonna lay down, legs bent for a couple reasons. One, it gives you stability in this position. This is not a good stable position. This is very stressful. So, we're here. It also naturally tilts your pelvis. This is important. We want lots and lots of pelvic tilts. So, we're gonna start here. You wanna support your neck, okay? That's important. And then your goal is to bend over the ball and touch the ground. Things you do not want. This. Does everyone see that difference? I'll take my arm away. So this or that. Okay? We don't want the second one because that's all cervical extension. That's extension in our neck. If you look up at that curve, that's an easy movement there. We have enough extension. Okay? We are looking for the mid-back. The other thing that's very important to pay attention to is rib flare. So when you support yourself, you don't want to just collapse over the ball, and you can see my ribs now. This means that, again, we are moving at that TL junction. We're not moving at each individual segment. So you want to lock those ribs down. The way you're going to do that is brace. You're going to pretend that someone is about to drop a 53-pound kettlebell on your stomach, or like someone is standing there punching you. This seems counterintuitive to hold yourself here and then go back, and it might take some getting used to, but the more you get that extension throughout your thoracic spine, the easier it will be. So you're going to do a segment, you're going to roll the lacrosse ball up a segment, and then go back, and do it all the way up until you get to that CT junction up here at the base of your neck, okay? But again, my ribs are locked down, I'm braced, someone's about to drop a kettlebell on me. I'm supporting my neck, I have a nice neutral neck here. Okay? My feet are braced, and I am going back. If you find that you have a sticky spot, like you're like, oh, man, that is not moving, then don't worry about touching your head to the ground. You just go here a couple times. Go where that movement is comfortable. This is one of those great ones that you might get a noise or a little pop sound there, similar to if you had a chiropractic adjustment in that area. That's good. That's just air escaping the joint. That means you're getting movement. So the more you do this, the easier it will become, the less you will have to do it, and the more extension you'll have here. When you can open this up, all of a sudden, this movement here is not so hard. You are then here instead of here. Huh? So, mobility, very important. And the one mobility exercise that I think is important for the core is the Samson stretch for your psoas. This is that runner stretch. And the reason we want to do this one is because, remember, we are very flexion dominant. And if we have a weak core, our psoas is exhausted from having to be a flexor and a stabilizer. So the best way to do this, get down on one knee. You're going to let that hip that's down sink. Oh, here, I can move. Here we go. There we go. Sorry. All right, so you're going to sink that hip forward, okay? This is going to get your psoas, or iliopsoas, and your quad muscles here, this part right where you're sinking. So you're just going to let it sink down as low as it'll go, hold it there for a second, and then you're going to take the same side arm, reach up and back and a little bit over to the opposite side, okay? So that you're going to feel much deeper. So if everyone wants to try that, so we know that we're feeling it in the right spot. This first part here, you're going to feel more in the hip, okay? And then that reaching up, back, and over, that's where you should feel it deeper. We all feeling it. It should feel pretty good. All right. And then to counteract that, because you truly, if you're going to do mobility, you should do something to stabilize. Because, again, we sit all day, reflection dominant, all of that. Just a really quick exercise to get some hip extension, to get some glute firing is, one, air squats. They're perfect. So if you're sitting all day, that pressure is going to shut off your glutes. Okay? So when you stand up, you're going to start walking. Your psoas is dominant, so we're not going to get that full extension there. And when we do get extension, it's going to come from our hamstrings and not our glutes. So after you've done a lot of sitting or after you've stretched your psoas, just some air squats, and I want everything to be felt in the glutes. So how do we do this? You can lift up your toes. You're gonna start here. You're gonna squeeze your glutes, go down as low as you can, still squeezing, and then drive through those heels. Okay? That's gonna activate your glutes. And you don't have to do a ton of them. This is not to fatigue you. This is just to say, hey glutes, wake up. We need some hip extension here. That's gonna give your psoas a little bit of counteraction there. Now we're gonna go on to breathing. The reason I'm doing breathing first is because I truly do not think that you can have a stable core unless you're breathing properly. And when you're working the two together, you will find that it is much easier to consciously work your core and not have to worry about breathing versus having a stiff core and trying to force correct breathing. Okay? So breathing should really be your step one. And the great thing about it is the more you do it, the faster it comes back. Just like all of the kids that are running around here, it is naturally ingrained in your brain. So the more you do it, the faster your brain and body remember how they're supposed to breathe. So we've got some very, very simple ways to do that. The first one that I want everybody to do, you're going to lay down on the ground. Actually, Jason, come on up here. Mm-hmm. All right, so you're gonna lay down. Knees are bent. Our knees are bent so that we can tilt our pelvis. Oh, not even yet. This is step one for breathing, okay? Now, you're gonna put your hands on your belly. You're gonna take a breath in and fill your belly with air. You're gonna push your hands toward the ceiling, and I want even less chest here, okay? So this is gonna be more exaggerated than you're gonna breathe in real life because you're just trying to what am I saying here? Yeah, over-exaggerate. So your shoulders and your chest do not leave the ground. Your belly gets filled with air, and then when you breathe out, your hands fall. Do 30 seconds to a minute in the morning when you wake up. It's about 10 to 20 breaths. And then 30 seconds to a minute when you lay down at night to go to sleep. So another 10 to 20 breaths. So you're doing at least 1 to 2 minutes that you know of, okay? If you want to progress this one, or you're here at the gym and you want to work on it, go ahead and bring your knees to 90-90. A little bit, good. So we want 90 degrees at the hips, 90 degrees at the knees. Good. And breathing. What this is doing, this is tilting our pelvis even more. And still, just filling that belly with air. You can put your feet on a Swiss ball or one of those big balls. It's kind of small for Jason, but you can use a ball, you can use a chair, you can go up against the wall and do it. But this is the progression to do that. After that, once you are a better breather, it should be really easy for you to go ahead and extend your legs out. Nope, you can hold them, yep. So this takes away that pelvic tilt. You'll notice that it's a little bit harder to breathe with just your belly. Every morning and every night, you do that, you will be surprised at how fast it comes back to you. You want to do it even more, or if you're sitting at your desk or sitting in your car.
Should the glutes be turned on in the straight leg position?
Not necessarily, because this is more focusing on just the breathing. Jason asked if the glutes should be turned on, and because this is just a breathing thing, we're not worried so much about the glutes. So this is exaggerated breathing. When you're doing it seated, I recommend trying it in front of a mirror first, because this is a little bit harder because now you don't have something touching your shoulders. But what you want is you want to be able to sit with your hands on your belly and push your belly out without shoulders moving. So most of us will go like this. We don't want that shoulder rise and fall. So it's good to look in the mirror, and we're retraining this diaphragmatic breathing by pushing our belly out, and our shoulders stay nice and long and nice and loose. So we can partner up right now, and you can just have your partner watch your shoulders. Partners, you can actually touch the shoulders. With patients, I will push their shoulders down and hold them so that they are not able to raise them up. Okay, so let's just try that. Just do a couple breaths with a partner. Something that's so basic that you do every day, and now all of a sudden you have to think about it. It's very strange. But, like I said, the more you do it, the faster it's gonna come back, okay? Breathing. James is a really great example. Remember how I said that it's much easier to start retraining your breathing and then consciously work on your core while you can still breathe? The reason is you want to be able to have that strong, braced core and still breathe. So right now, if you were to feel my stomach, I am solid. It's like I'm wearing a weight belt. I'm still talking. I'm still breathing. My shoulders aren't coming up. You can be braced and still breathe. That's important for when you're doing those heavy, heavy lifts. Why is this important? How many times have you seen just a crazy power lifter? He's all like this, he's braced, he's got 600 pounds on his back, and he cannot breathe because his shoulders can't come up because he has 600 pounds holding them down, and he is so braced, and he is not breathing properly. So what happens then? You pass out with 600 pounds on your back. So you want to be able to brace and breathe. James has such a strong core, but he has to now relax his core to actively work on his breathing. So get the breathing part first so that you don't have to think about it so much. Now we'll work on core stability, which you can do some of these, but I would not progress them too far on your own until you go to belly breathe one day and you realize you already are belly breathing. Okay? So the first one that everyone can do is for those deep neck flexors. These are, remember, midline core stabilizers all the way up here. Easiest way to do this is to give yourself a very attractive double chin, like this. Sexy, right? So when you do this properly, you want to think of your jaw. This is your jawbone. These are our teeth. We have pointy teeth right now. Sorry. So, see, this is what a T-Rex's jaw looks like. All right, so you are going to think of it as sliding back, all right? It is a sliding, gliding, straight back movement like this. We're not adding in any flexion, even though they're deep neck flexors. To start, we just want to turn them on. We just want to activate them. So you give yourself a double chin. It should be difficult if you tried to swallow. You should feel it deep in there. It almost feels like it wants to cramp, okay? You're going to hold this for 2 seconds or 3 seconds, and you're going to relax. And then you're going to do it again. Now, when I give these exercises, I will not give you a 3 sets of 10. You're CrossFitters. Come hell or high water, you will do 3 sets of 10. So I want you to this first time, not right now, but when you start doing them, you're going to do them and keep track of how many it takes you to fatigue. Because anything after fatigue is a wasted rep. All you're going to do is recreate some kind of bad movement pattern. So some of you will start to feel it after 4 or 5. Others might take 8 to 10. You're going to do 3 sets of those. And they don't have to be right away. I just want to make sure you get 3 sets per day in. The car is a great place to do them. Sitting at work, sitting in class, those are all great places to do them. The only thing to be mindful of is if you are in the car or you are in a chair that has a headrest in it, make sure that you are still double chinning, not pushing back. It's very easy when you have something supporting your head to think that you need to push back against it, and that's not doing anything for our deep neck flexors. Okay? To progress this, once you can do, 3 sets of 15, 3 sets of 20, and you're not really feeling that anymore, and you notice that you have more of this straight, neutral neck posture, then you're going to add that flexion into it. So you're going to give yourself the double chin, and then you're going to flex. That's flexion right there. You don't have to touch your chin to your chest. Those are different movers, okay? This is just retraction and then flexion. Same thing. Figure out how many it takes you to fatigue. 3 sets of those throughout the day. When you want to advance it even more, you can grab a band. You can tie it to the rig. You will make yourself look like a ninja. This is a good look for me, right? Okay? You'll step back. You're going to create a little tension. You're going to double chin and then go down. Retract. Go down. Right? Watch your rib flare when you do this because you're going to be straining a little bit more. You don't want this. Pull it down. All you're doing is adding a little resistance. And we're not trying to get your deep neck flexors jacked. We just want them to work properly, okay? For the cervical region, that's it. Thoracic region, it's mostly mobility and your breathing. When you can move up here, your shoulders and your scapula will start to function more efficiently, your breathing is better. So now we go to the core that everybody thinks about as the core, okay? There are 7 billion different exercises and videos on these core exercises. The very first and most basic one that everybody will start doing from now on, forever, is you are going to learn the pelvic tilt and you are going to brace, okay? Bracing just means, again, Steve's about to come up and punch me in the stomach. I better be ready for it, okay? You're pushing out. If anyone's ever taken yoga and they tell you to suck in, this is bad. This is backwards. We want you to go out, okay? One of you two come here because I know you have abs. Come.
I've got side abs.
James, come. Join us. Yes. Okay, so just go ahead and lift up your shirt. Oh, look at that. All right. Oh. So, now suck in. All right.
Just suck
He's skinny. Look at that. But, hey, look at it. We're sucking in. Now push out. Look at that. Core. That's core stability right there. You want to push out. Okay? Very good. Thank you, sir. That's all we need. Go ahead and hit yourself. You will brace very, very quickly. Right? Grab a partner during the workouts and say, hey, just come up to me and poke me.
When you properly brace, you technically should feel it all the way around.
Yes, you will feel it. When you brace, you're getting 360 degrees of core stability, okay? So that's everything. Versus just trying to tighten your abs, that's the front. What about the back? We want protection of your organs, we want protection of your spine, so brace. I don't care if you're doing biceps curls. I don't care if you are hanging. If you are deadlifting, squatting, snatching, overheading anything, kettlebell swings, you better be braced. Because when you brace like this, it's very hard for you to lose anything here. You can't lose that good posture. You can't round out in your low back. You know, you can't do that if you are braced. This is very protective when you're doing workouts, especially heavy workouts. Weight belts, I'm not a huge fan of them. I think that people use them incorrectly and that oftentimes they are a cheat. Sometimes they're necessary if you're doing like a crazy max, but the way they are used properly, it's a neurological cue. They're not supposed to be so tight that they hold you in so that you can brace like that. They're supposed to be there to remind you to push against them. So you are bracing and pushing outward against the belt, okay? So if you must use a brace, use it that way. That is one of the most basic things you can do. Adding in a pelvic tilt is going to increase that. So what we're going to do really quick is just run through a quick progression of dead bug exercises, bird dog exercises, and then planks. If you do these bracing and planking exercises, you will have incredible abs and you will never have to do another crunch again. Really just a fun thing. If you were to train your whole core, what would be the hardest part for you to get? What is the hardest part that anybody who's ever done any kind of swimsuit workout to get? Yes, lower abs. The reason is that pelvic tilt, even if you're bracing everything here and you're holding those ribs down, they're still long. So remember, if they're long, by very definition, they cannot shorten. So we want to tilt our pelvis to put these muscles in the position that they function most optimally. So we're going to run through the dead bug. You can go from dead bug to bird dog to planking. If you cannot do dead bug exercises, you should not be doing bird dog or planking exercises, okay? So the very first one for the dead bug, that's very easy, and it's not even technically a dead bug. And if you didn't know, dead bug exercises are called that because when you start moving your arms and legs, you look like a dying bug. But I digress. So one of the easiest ways to start activating your core is in this face-up position, holding a ball, and you are going to squeeze with your arms and your legs. And you're going to hold that. It's just an isometric or non-lengthening, shortening exercise. Okay? So that's the first one. Now getting to the true dead bug. So these will go from easiest to intermediate to most difficult. So again, facing up, we've got our knees bent, arms here, and we're going lightest limbs to heaviest limbs. So step one, we're going to bring those ribs down and flatten out our back. Easiest way to do that, remember, is to brace. There we go. Everything is locked down now. I won't get any rib flare. There's no arch in my back. My spine is safe. So we go here. You're going to go one arm up overhead, other arm up overhead, slide the leg down, slide the leg down. You should be able to do those without losing that core. When you can do those, we make this one harder by going opposite arm and leg. Now, to move to the intermediate level, you're going to bring your legs up 90-90. If this is difficult, use a chair. Well, you could use something on the side, but you should be able to hold this position and move your legs. So again, we go arm, arm. This easy one is here. The more difficult one would be to go here. Then you progress it. So we're going to go opposite, opposite. If you're doing the easier one, here, here. Now we want to make it more difficult. We're going to straighten out our legs, okay? Then we go arm, arm, leg, leg, opposite, opposite. You can progress this further by holding on to, I would say, a wall ball, but they're very large, very heavy. Swiss balls are great. Smaller medicine balls are good, so like our slam balls. And what we're going to do with this one is the whole time keeping braced. You never, ever want to lose that. The second you lose your rib flare, or you have rib flare, you've lost your core. If you get that arch in your back and you're starting to feel it in either one of those starred spots up there, ooh, thanks, James. I hope it's like 4 pounds. It is 4 pounds. All right, so same thing. You can do this here and bring it here. You can rotate. You can, oh, I can't even reach my feet. So you can progress these by adding weight, by lengthening your lever arms, so straightening your legs, as long as you maintain that core. Once dead bug exercises are nothing for you, we move to bird dog exercises. Bird dog is this nice quadruped position, okay? Things to remember, we are still bracing. Bracing is going to guarantee that you keep that neutral spine and everything is protected. The big thing here that you want to make sure is that knees are lined up with your hips, okay? And with your shoulders, you don't want any winging here, and you don't want this rounding out here. So you want neutral shoulders, so you're going to brace, and then if you just rotate your hands outward a little bit, that's going to lock your shoulder blades into place, which means that you're not really going to be able to do this without straining. It'll feel awkward. That's a good way to make sure that you're nice and neutral. So again, we're going to go from very, very easy, and we're going to progress it. So you're just going to move your hand out to the side a couple inches, other hand out to the side a couple inches, slide your leg, slide your leg. That's the easiest one. And then but you should not see a whole lot of movement in my core. All right, not in my hips, not in here, not in my shoulders. Everything is like a plank or like a board. So that is the first one. Well, to make it harder, you go just here, out in front, just over, just over. So now we're not sliding our foot. We're just above the ground. Okay? To progress that one, we go here, here, there, there. And then if you find that you're swaying one way or a certain side is more difficult, focus on that side. All right, that's the side you need to strengthen. To progress this one even more, we can change how much we're moving. So now I'm stepping off. You can make it an unstable surface. The Bosu ball is a wonderful tool for unstable surface. So you'll bring your hands in just a little bit more. You gotta have nice, strong core. And I'm probably not gonna be able to do this, so. You're not gonna have that flat back because we're obviously elevating here, but you have to stay braced. That's another way to advance it. Now, once you can do bird dogs and it's nothing, then we're gonna go to planks. Planks are the best exercise ever for your core because you are contracting these muscles and telling them to work without changing length, which is great because when you're sitting at work, they are not changing length. So you're training them to work the way that they're supposed to, the way they're efficient, and the way that they can protect your organs and your spine without you thinking about it, okay? So, step one is to learn the pelvic tilt. I think it's easier when people learn it on their knees because if you try to teach someone how to pelvic tilt when they're standing, a lot of times you'll get this. Well, that's great, except that when I straighten out my knees, I haven't actually pelvic tilted, I've flexed my trunk. So, on your knees is a much easier starting spot. So, again, our pelvis is a bowl of water, okay? Right now, we're dumping water out of the front. So actually put your hands on your hips here, all right? Now, dump that water out of the front, so we're gonna make a really exaggerated anterior pelvic tilt, and then bring it back to neutral. All it is this quick motion. When you do it correctly, your lower abs will turn on and tighten, and your butt will turn on and tighten. You see why I say you'll get those lower abs? You are putting everything in the position that it works the most efficiently at. So, basics for planking, the planking portion of this is going to be pelvic tilt, brace, hold it, 3 to 5 seconds. Relax. Do those. Again, find your fatigue number, do 3 sets in the day, progress it from there, okay? When you can do 15 or 20 3 times and it's nothing, then you're ready to turn it into a plank. We start with a partial plank. So you're gonna need a box or a chair or your couch, okay? You're going to pelvic tilt, brace, and you are not going to lose this for love nor money. Then you're gonna put your elbows on there and you're gonna let your hips sink, okay? Too many people do planks like this. What this is doing, you're allowing your psoas to help. We don't want that. Coming out here into hip extension takes your psoas out of it. So now everything I'm using is my core. This should not be like okay, I'm gonna hold this for a minute and you're shaking like this. You will start to shake. I've been doing it for years, and there are, when I progress it, I still start shaking. And most people will do it, I've found, between 7 and 10 seconds. You will start to shake. You don't want to, again, you don't want this. You don't want this. You don't want your neck to be in a weird position, all right? You want a neutral spine, so we pelvic tilt, we brace, we come forward, spine is neutral, and let the hips sink. If you're unsure of it, let yourself go too far. You'll feel it in your low back. Then back it up until you don't feel it in your low back. Your shoulders, hips, and knees should all be in one parallel line. How do we progress this? We go from a half plank to a full plank. Huh? Then we go to the ground. You can do elbows or hands. Lock those shoulder blades in. We're pelvic tilted, we're braced, and you just hold it. You can change the surface that you do it on. Swiss balls are wonderful. Again, pelvic tilt, brace, elbows. You can take it out. As long as you're not feeling it in your low back, you're doing it correctly. You can do it with your feet. When you really want to make it much harder, you're going to get yourself parallel to the ground. I don't know how many plates this is going to take. We'll say 2, because I don't want to lift anymore. Okay? There we go. So you can keep progressing your front plank, but when you're bracing, you're actually doing something for all of your core muscles. The last one is going to be a side plank, okay? And it's the same thing. Anytime you're doing this, you're going to pelvic tilt, and then you're going to brace. And then you can side plank. You can do a half one. You can do a full one. You can do it on a disc. So, here. You can do it on a Bosu ball and plates, and make yourself parallel to the ground. All of these are just going to increase the difficulty and increase your core strength. Okay? When you can do this and not think about it, I guarantee you your weights will go up because you have a stable foundation for everything else to work on. Your endurance is going to go up because you're breathing properly and you're not wasting energy on other muscles. If you're a runner, having core stability means when you run, you're not going to have that hip sway here. You're not going to lose energy going out at the sides. So you're going to be able to run more efficiently, farther, faster, less out of breath. Your posture is going to improve. I mean, the changes that you will notice in the gym and in regular life are going to astound you. So, with that being said, there's always ways to progress it and make it harder. So if you ever have any questions, just grab me. Are there any questions for right now? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for suffering through this, and I hope it was worth your time. Yay.